Hey YouTube, Chris here. Alright, so this is a tag response video. I was tagged several weeks back by Dan over at Bladereviewscom, and he was originally tagged by the Thenextarcher for what the Thenextarcher was calling ghost knives. So these are knives that maybe were prototypes or things that were never supposed to be produced or things that have long been forgotten. So I kind of went through my collection trying to figure out what kind of qualified for that criteria, and what's in front of you is what I'm going to present for my ghost knives. The first two we're going to pull up are these two right here. Seen these in an earlier video too, and these are kind of like what I'm thinking as kind of forgotten. And the reason I say that is their style is really kind of unique nowadays. You don't see much in this style of drop point. Once upon a time, this style was pretty popular. These are both pre-production runs as well, so while not exactly prototypes, they are early on in Benchmade actually determining if the model was good to go for mass production. So these are really the same knife, the difference being this one has coated aluminum scales and then this one has G10. The 855 and 856 models. Using an old steel too. Old compared to today, ATS-34. Still get some use. ATS-34, I think RWL-34 now is a powdered version of that. But next up, Alan Olishewitz, of course, is very big today with Hogue knives, Hogue Extreme knives. He's done collaboration work with many knife companies, though. Benchmade, he's done some work with. This was one of his designs called the Dark Star, model 880 with anodized titanium liners. And again, this is a ATS-34 blade and pre-production. So, pretty big run for pre-production, 1,000 units. So, cool little spare point. Interesting how G10 has changed over the years too. This is really not grippy at all. I mean, it does have grip, but I mean, compared to what some of the styles that we have today, this is not aggressive, I guess is the word I should say. Cool little knife. Bigger than an Aries, actually, the blade is. Cool knife. Alright, so let's move on to this one. This is going to be one of those that falls under the kind of forgotten. This is actually a Solo knife. SC05S, I think is what this is. For those of you that don't know, Spyderco has had relationship with makers in Seki City for a long time. And in this case, Solo Knives, I think, is one of the companies out of Japan. This in particular is made in Seki City, Japan. But there are some knives even today where Spyderco, it's a Spyderco knife, but it's only sold in certain markets. Particularly in Japan, there's a couple of different models that have been marketed and sold only in Japan. So they're pretty rare for us in the US. But this is a little Solo knife that I got off of a retailer that was selling old and discontinued models from Spyderco and some other makers. So you can see there the screwed in thumb stud, which is a polymer or plastic. Cool little blade, and then this unique little button right here, Solo button lock is what it's called. And if you look inside there, you'll see that it is a liner lock, but rather than reaching in with your thumb to disengage it, because it is buried inside of there, you push this button, which is connected, and then it drops out of the way. So pretty interesting. And again, the G10 is the older style that they used to make, not like the current stuff that we get. Pretty cool little knife though. So that elongated Thumb stud just works fine. Thumb plate, it's not really a thumb plate, but it works. And it's easy enough to close. Can't get your fingers in the way there either. Alright. Now Dan, I'm surprised that you didn't actually pull out the knife that is very similar to this that we also traded for. This is the Spyderco Chicago from the original run that they did. And I traded with Dan, and he actually got a Spyderco Cat, which is exactly like this. Obviously, it is a different model, but it is slightly bigger than this one. And what makes this qualify for this particular tag video is the fact that these are the ones that were made in Taiwan. And there were very few of them made, very few sold, because they started to have some quality control problems with the manufacturer of them. So they discontinued them fairly quickly. So this one is unique in that it has a carbon fiber scale and it is CPMS 30V. The ones that they are producing now have G10 scales and 440C blade, I believe is what it is. So not too many people have seen these or held these. There are a few out there though. Okay, let's see, I think I'll go with these ones next. So these are balisongs. You know, I've said before I kind of suck at this flipping stuff. What makes these unique is the fact that what they're made from as far as steel. So if you look there, these ones are VG10. Any production ones that you see nowadays are 440C, and that was because of the snafu that happened with Spyderco, and I think it was ATF or whatever, with bringing the pieces into the United States. So it was a nut roll as far as I'm concerned. Too bad I can't flip, because I bet this would be a badass one to actually flip as a balisong, play with. But I'd probably lop something off with this blade. Very interesting design. Lazy Zabo, in some of his martial arts, does a lot of trapping and stuff, hence this curve right here. So as you're using it, you can trap and move things and then still cut with the edge on the out. Alright, so the next two I'm bring up. These knives are unique in the fact that you just can't go out and purchase them. This one, or could have ever purchased them really, unless you were in some very unique circumstances. You see this one is the OIF, and then this one in the packaging is the OEF model. So this is a Spyderco native model with tan FRN scales, CPMS 30V blade you see there, and then of course that unique inscription. These knives were made by Spyderco, and they have a lottery that they had been doing. I'm not sure if they currently still do it. I think they do though. Soldiers could actually put their names into the lottery, and then they would send out so many of these to soldiers in that lottery, pick them out, and send the knives over to their APO address in either of those theaters. So that was one of the ways that you could get it. The other way is that some of these models were actually put into the military clothing sales system, or the AFES, which is the Army and Air Force Exchange Service. So that was a way of getting them. But again, you had to have the accessibility of going onto a military installation and getting them from on a military base in the clothing sales store, or maybe even the PX or BX. So there's those two. Alright, final one I've got is this innocuous looking box. Interestingly enough, I do find it funny. It's a bird. Plain white box, simple little label. It is exactly how early Spyderco models were sold. in just simple cardboard boxes, whether they were blue or red, and just a sticker like this. So it's interesting to see birds start out just like that, and of course the evolution of the advertising and the marketing and even the packaging for Bird and Spyderco, how much it has been refined over the years. So you may be thinking, well, what's so special about a Meadowlark? They've been making these for a while, ever since. I mean, it's BY04, so it's an early model, right? And this is early on in the production of the birds. You can see just what it is, but what makes this one unique is that blade steel. It says 440C, and originally when Birdline was being done over in China, they actually asked for 440C or an equivalent steel. And I guess the manufacturer at the time said, oh yeah, no problem, we can give you 440C. Spyderco, being the type of company they are, caring about quality, knowing what they are actually producing and what they're putting out to their end-line users, they did some tests and they found out that the blade steel wasn't 440C. Yes, it was similar, but it wasn't 440C. It was actually 8CR13MOV, which is what they still use today. But they didn't know that when they were first producing them, so they were marking them 440C with the understanding that that's what they were, but they weren't. So some of these knives have made it out 440C. It's just an oddity. It's one of those things, just like the Endura Hawk or some of the other little mistakes, say like the Gale Bradley that didn't have the maker's mark on the obverse side. So this is one that should have probably never been out, but it wasn't found out until later. So some of these did get out into the wild. That's probably the best example of the ghost knife that I have in my collection. I wanted to thank Dan for tagging me in this video, and for anybody that watches this video, you can consider yourself tagged if you've got some type of example of knife that might qualify as a ghost knife. If you got like a Pacific Cutlery, like the Thenextarcher mentioned, or something like that, something cool that you can show, then let's see it. All right. Thanks again, Dan. Y'all take it easy. See you on another video. Later.